What's up, you guys, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Fit Women's Weekly podcast. I'm excited today to be joined by a special guest. In case you guys didn't know, which most people probably wouldn't know, this month is National Carnivore Month. I know you're probably going like, there's a month for that? Yes, there's a month for everything. And since I am still experimenting with the whole carnivore diet and sharing that experience with you guys, I thought it would be helpful to have somebody else who's also gone through it, though much longer than I have, to share their story, their whys, how are they feeling. And I want to preface this is why I really wanted to do an intro instead of just jumping right in, is that I am not here to say this is the diet that you should be doing. I don't think that anybody should do something that doesn't feel right for them. And I'm also a big believer that what works for one person might not be what works for somebody else, but it is important to open up our minds and not be so black and white to, well, this is what I've always been told, this must be the way that it is. And so the whole point of me even going into this world and testing it out myself is to become open-minded and see, how do I feel? What things can I take to help improve myself, to help improve my gut, help improve my fitness and my overall health as I move forward. I am getting ready for a new decade pretty soon, and I want to be the healthiest version of myself. So I never want to stop learning and stop asking questions. And that's the point of this carnivore experiment. So on today's episode, I am joined by Courtney Luna, who over on Instagram is at It's Courtney Luna, and she has been doing the carnivore diet now for over 8 months. She has gotten quite a big following. She's very educated in her whys and the whole program and the whole process of carnivore. So I thought it would be really cool to have her on to share her story. So that's what we're going to do today. If you enjoy this video, make sure, or you're listening to the podcast, make sure to subscribe, give it a thumbs up. And feel free to always reach out to me, whether that is in the comments or if you want to reach out to me over on Instagram, Kindal Boyle Fitness, or even email me personally. Share with me your stories, or if you have a topic idea in the future, I would love to hear it. And that is at Kindle@fitwomensweekly.com. All right, guys, without any further ado, let's jump in to this week's episode. Don't worry about that. This is just two women talking about things that we're passionate about. And I came across you when I started my own carnivore. I'm not going to say like transition. I don't know what the future is going to hold. I'm a nutritionist. I'm a personal trainer. I love never pigeonholing myself to nutrition, as I think that nobody should. Like on your profile, you say always question, always learn. So when new things come about, I'm like, let me see what this makes my body feel like. So when people ask, I can say, this is how I felt. This is what it did for me. And it's been about 12 weeks now, and it's been actually an awesome experience. At first I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm getting into. This is going to be crazy. And then as I've kind of jumped into it, I've been surrounding myself with more experts and more women specifically that are also following the carnivore diet, and it being Carnivore Month. I was like, I want somebody else on this podcast because people don't want to just hear me. And so you are actually one of the first females that I found. And so here we are. So thank you for being on the show.
Well, thank you. That's awesome. How have you been eating? Like, are you strict? Are you having animal based, or what's your 12 weeks look like?
So my first night up till Christmas was like what my goal was. And at that point it was 100% carnivore, very, very strict. And then I don't say I cheated. I don't think that I cheated, but I did enjoy myself a little bit on Christmas. And then I've introduced a little bit more cheese over the past week, just with the holidays. And then today I'm like, I'm going back to just what I was doing. So cleaning things up a little bit this week.
Before carnivore or just back to carnivore?
No, back to the carnivore. Like during the carnivore, I wasn't eating a lot of processed cheese. I would just do ricotta because ricotta does really well with my system. But the past week I've had like Swiss cheese, like charcuterie board cheeses and processed meats like salami that people brought over from New Year's. And I looked at my husband last night and I was like, whatever is not eaten, it's got to get tossed out of the house. But yeah, other than that, I haven't had fruits or anything. I am planning on adding some fruit into the cycle because I work out a lot. I know that you're an avid fitness person. With my business, I do 3 workouts a day. Since I've done the strict stuff to see how I feel, I'm like, I'm training for a ultra marathon, so I will be adding in some fruit.
Do you follow Michelle Hearn?
Is that her name on?
It's like, I want to say she's Eat, Meet, Repeat, possibly.
No, but
something
I will
like
write
that.
it down. Okay.
Yeah, she's great because she's a dietitian as well.
Okay.
And she's like a runner.
Okay.
Yeah, so that might be good info for you and maybe a good collab
Yeah,
too.
for
That's
sure.
great.
As far as like the kind of combining the fitness with the carnivore, a lot of my tips and stuff that I get is from the Carnivore MD.
Okay.
San Salando or
Saladino.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very controversial right now in the strict carnivore community. They don't appreciate what he's sharing with all the carbs and sugar.
Yeah. Which I think it's like that's why I kind of want to have this conversation too, because it's so interesting to me. And I guess I'm just somebody because I do love to experiment. I'm a scientist at heart. And I don't think that one right way is the right way for anybody in anything in this world, right? Everybody's body runs different. And so it's so funny when you're like, well, the strict people don't like what he's doing and putting out. And then he feels great off of what he's doing. So he doesn't do it. And then you got the vegans over here that are like, I hate what you're doing. And then the carnivores that are like, well, I hate what you're doing. And it's like, can't we just all live in this world where we're all entitled to have our opinions? And if it works for you, great. And if you're not hurting me and I'm not hurting you, carry on. Whether I agree with what you're doing or not, I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. We all need to, I think, take responsibility too, because I get a lot of comments like what you're sharing is misinformation. I'm
Right.
like, well, first it's not, but then don't believe me. Don't believe
Exactly.
me and then go do your own research. Like just because I'm sharing this journey doesn't mean that you should trust everything I say. Like have some responsibility. And that goes for the people that like do follow what I'm sharing. Like we should all still like don't blindly follow what I'm saying either.
Right. Always fact check. If like I find something interesting that you post, which I do a lot of times, it's like, well, let me dive a little deeper into this. Or, let me play around with it. People are so black and white sometimes that they think like they're stuck to this way, right? Where it's like, okay, my body is not going to change overnight. Where it's like, if I experiment for a week and go, this just doesn't feel right, it's okay to tweak it to what does feel right. But anyways, that's just something interesting that I have found because I've done it all over the past 20 years. But enough about me, Courtney. I want to hear about you. What is because nobody wakes up and goes, except for me, I'm going to start carnivore diet today. What was your intro to it? What were your reasonings behind it?
Yeah, well, a little background before that, I feel so out of the loop. I've been in the keto carnivore community for like 6, 7 years.
Oh,
You know,
wow.
I used to cook for a living, so I was on social media sharing my food and following other like paleo people and low carb and keto, and I never came across carnivore. Like where was this? Why didn't anybody tell me?
Yeah.
So like I was kind of blindsided with this. I guess it's almost been a year and I'm like, what the heck? Like carnivore, you're gonna you're gonna try and lose weight doing this by not eating vegetables. Like, what the heck? We need vegetables. So I was very resistant at first. And then my husband kept sending me Saladino's TikToks.
Mhm.
And probably for like a month, we never talked about it. And I would just watch them and I'd be like, okay, interesting. And then one day I'm like, so why are you sending me these? Like, do you want to do this? Like, should we not be eating vegetables? You know, because a lot of it was like why plants are trying to kill us, essentially. And he's like, I don't know, I got to dig more into it. So that was kind of our introduction. And why I decided to give it a shot was, I mean, my husband, I did keto carnivore, or not, sorry, not carnivore. I did keto low carb for a while before this. After my second baby, I lost 40 pounds and then I stopped doing what was working for me because I got caught up in the anti-diet culture where, you know, all foods are on the table and you can eat everything you want in moderation, whatever. And I'm not good at moderating. I would say that I have like a carb and sugar addiction and I'm better off abstaining. So I gave
I'm the
that a
same.
shot, which is
Yeah.
a horrible idea. I gained 40 pounds in 4 months. I felt like crap. I looked like crap. My skin was awful. My mood was awful. I would wake up from a full night's sleep and be fatigued. So this whole time I'm going through that, my husband was very supportive. Like, you know, you can't tell someone what to do. But once in a while, you know, when I would be complaining, he's like, do you want me to listen or do you want advice? You know, and he would gently suggest that like I go back to keto, like go back to what worked for you and what has worked for you.
And some
And
people do. I think that's a really important statement for those of you guys listening. Some people do really well off of intuitive eating, and they're able to say enough is enough. And if we ate as if we did even 100 years ago, that's a lot more manageable for people. But because we live in a society nowadays where food is so abundant and so around us, and because of sugar obviously is so addicting, intuitive eating is very hard for a lot of people. A lot of people, like you said, like you, are an all or none. Like if I have a bag of Oreos in front of me, I've talked about this a lot on my podcast, instead of looking at it of like, oh, this is 2 weeks worth of Oreos, my brain goes, or I could just sit and eat them all and then they're out of my house.
exactly that, or try and have a few or fit some in your macros. And then like the mental gymnastics you go through all day, like to try and not eat the rest of them. Like I would just obsessively think about them. So yeah, that's the whole other thing. Like I just need to abstain, and there's no moderating for me.
Yeah.
I forget what I was saying
So
before.
your husband was saying, do you want love or do you want advice? And kept
Oh
telling you
yeah,
to try
yeah.
keto. Yeah. To go
Okay. So
back to
yeah,
keto.
he was suggesting that, and I guess I just wasn't ready for that. But then after a while of seeing those TikToks, I kind of felt like I hit my rock bottom of feeling like garbage. I'm like, all right, let's give this a shot. And he started like strict carnivore. That wasn't even on my radar. I was like, oh, animal based, that's great because, you know, you get to have fruit. And here I was like, still like, oh, yay, I get my sugar fix.
Will
And
you kind of
it worked.
explain for people listening what's the difference between carnivore and animal based?
Yeah, so animal based is still like all meat, animal products. I think they kind of preach for more of like a raw dairy if you're going to have dairy. And it does allow for fruit because fruit would be technically like considered the least toxic part of the plant. So that's what I did when I first started out with no intentions of going strict carnivore. I thought it was great. I used like maple syrup and honey on my burgers, which is so freaking delicious. I will say I do miss that. That was
Uh-huh.
good. I had some raw dairy and I would maybe have like a cup of blueberries a day. So I was trying to be mindful of my carbs, just coming from a low carb place. So I was probably around 50, 75. So definitely not in ketosis, but on the lower carb side of things. And that worked for me for a while. And then I realized that my old habits were kind of coming back. I could eat like a pound of ribeye and be completely satiated and then be like, oh, I want some blueberries or,
Mhm.
oh, I want that honey. So it's like, it was just continuing this sugar craving by having the sugars. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'm going to try strict carnivore. And then also, like, the more I learn about it, you know, I don't want to bash Saladino because I'm grateful for him. That's how I found this lifestyle. But he's also eating 300 to 400 grams of carbs and sugars a day and working out for 3 hours a day. So I definitely don't think that's great for all people.
For sure. I agree
And
with that. Like
yeah,
you said,
and
like he goes surfing for like 2 hours every morning, and that's great for him. But most people, you're right, do not do that. So they don't need that amount of carbohydrates.
yeah, and so for me, lost my train of thought again.
I'm sorry.
I
I like to talk. I like to chit chat, but basically, you like Saladino, and you had been
oh
doing
yeah,
the fruit and
okay.
stuff, and then you're like, peace out.
Sorry, no, I'm glad we're chit chatting. I need to be like focused more on what I was saying. Everyone has this mental clarity going carnivore. I don't think I'm quite there yet. Um, but yeah, okay, yeah, that's what I was thinking is, you know, having that high amount of carbs, also having high fat. I'm learning more about this. Then like the Randall cycle kicks in, and you know, you kind of you need to pick one fuel source is from what I've been taught. So you either need to be, you know, a carb burning machine for fuel or fat. And what I've also read is doing both, having high fat and high carbs can also give you like the appearance of aging quicker. So I'm good without the carbs right now. I feel good just, you know, using fat for all my fuel. And yeah, that's what feels good for me right now. Maybe in the future I'll have a handful of berries once a week. but I mean, that could also be a slippery slope for me. So we'll have to see.
Yeah. And everybody has to figure out too. For me, when I first started carnivore all in, I was so focused on doing this like 80% fat, 20% protein. And I learned very, very quickly, my body does not do well with that. First off, I am a strength athlete, so I need the protein to help my body recover and repair. But second off, I would eat a meal and be running to the bathroom with the carnivore diarrhea like instantly. And again, I can't do that when I'm trying to train a client and be like, sorry. And then I kind of just realized like, stop putting so much stress on yourself and just eat the foods that fall within the perimeter that feel right to you. Like you're going to crave the things that your body wants at that time. So when I stopped focusing so much on trying to be like peeing on a stick to get into ketosis with my fat, once I just started eating the things that felt good for me, it changed big time. So I probably eat maybe 50, probably like 50-50 right now. And anytime I eat a heavy fat meal, my body's like, oh.
Yeah, I know people that, had tried the higher fat and they didn't like it. So yeah, I mean, that's what I think is kind of fun. You do like a little self-experimentation and
Exactly.
see what feels good for you and what your body needs. And yeah, especially like the ketone testing and all that. I feel like a lot of people get a little too caught up in that
Yes.
and constantly do. I mean, I think it's a great tool to once in a while maybe see where you're at, but I think some people can be like a little obsessive about it and it's creating some bad habits. And I don't know. I'm kind of with you more on like, listening to what your body wants. I mean, sometimes like I will eat a stick of butter in one day because that's what sounded good and
Mhm.
that's what my body wants. And that's a hot topic right now in the carnivore community. People are either doing it or they're complaining about how people are doing it. But then I'll go days where I'm not having any butter and I'm not adding any fat. I'm strictly having whatever fat is coming from like the fatty cuts of beef. So yeah, everyone I feel like just needs to, figure out what works for you. And I feel like the days are gonna differ. I mean, some days I'm gonna have really high fat and lower protein, and some days I'm like having a ton of protein. And I guess it just balances out and it's just, listening to your body's cravings too.
Right. And I know most of the time you're trying to preach red meat because that's where all the nutrients are, more bioavailable. But going back to that same topic, there are just days where like you crave more fat and butter. There's sometimes where I'm like, I just want a chicken breast. It maybe happens once a week, once every 2 weeks, but that's what, again, going from like, no, my body's like, I don't want a fatty ribeye. Just give me a chicken breast with some salt and pepper. And so we'll do that in the house. And it feels good. It feels good to my body. So I think people are always asking me, how do you listen to your body? How do you listen to your body? And your body is always talking to you. You just have to be open to actually hearing what it has to say.
Yeah, and when you're having those processed foods and, the unhealthy carbs and the sugar, that is really what's muting your hunger cues. That's hard to understand if you're full or not.
Right.
Like before, I could eat say, a pound of ribeye, be full and satisfied. And then if you set like a plate of donuts next to me, I would 100% eat those. Like you don't
For
have to
sure.
be hungry to eat garbage foods. But I, notice with eating this way, when it's just so satiating that when you're done with your food, you're done. You're not then going to go binge on another ribeye, even though it is delicious. So it's really easy to stop when you're full and satisfied.
Yeah, for sure. So once you started going more into the actual full focus carnivore, what kind of results did you see? How did your body feel different compared to what you were doing before?
Yeah, I've had tons of health benefits that I had no idea were going to come my way. Um, I don't want to say like I didn't do research. I guess I didn't really find carnivore influencers, if you will,
Mhm.
before I dove into this. It was all of a sudden I saw Saladino, and then it's like health benefits everyone's getting. Like I once again was out of the loop. So I found all those people like after. So yeah, I mean, of course the roof. my skin cleared up. It's not perfect right now. I actually am like 2 weeks off of dairy to see if that will help, but it cleared up drastically. So that's been awesome. My mental health, I was able to go off of my Zoloft. Digestion is awesome. There's no gas or bloating at
That was
all.
the one, that
And
was actually one of the main reasons I started in the first place, was because I've had over the past 2 years hemorrhoids, bloat, gas. Anytime I would eat a meal, I was a person when I was a kid, a salad was my favorite meal. Like, make fun of me all you want, but like Caesar salad has always been one of my things. And I prided myself on getting in probably 50 grams of fiber per day up until a few months ago. But every time I would eat, I would be gassy. I would be like, I wouldn't want my husband to come near me, because I would be like, listen, if you don't try to have fun with me before we eat dinner, it's not going to happen. Because I didn't feel sexy about myself at that time.
yeah,
And so within the first week, those symptoms started to really clear up. And I'm like, oh my God, thank God I can actually eat and then still feel like a beautiful woman after.
exactly. Yeah, the whole fiber thing, because, coming from a low carb space, like, it's all about the carb count, and to get, treats and breads and stuff to be low carb, you add a ton of fiber. And I was like addicted to these low carb tortillas. Like, even right now, I can like feel the texture and the taste. Like,
I
I
used to
just
get
love
those
them.
too. Yeah.
Oh, they're like
They're
gummy and
so
chewy,
chewy.
and
Yes.
yes, they're so good. And
And they're
I
only
would
like
like,
10 calories for like an 8-inch roll or whatever.
seriously,
Yeah.
yeah. And there was so much fiber to make them low carb, probably I'm trying to remember, I want to say maybe like 12 to 14 grams of fiber per tortilla to make them like 3 or 4 net carbs. And of course, since I can't moderate, I would probably have like 4 or 5 a day, and I would just eat those with butter. And that's like 60 or so grams of fiber. I would be like so gassy the rest of the day, but like I didn't care. I was addicted to them, and even like the protein bars that I would eat, like I was never really concerned that much about ingredients or my health. It was all about macros. It was all about the carb count, and all those like fake sugars and stuff to make the carbs low, like they destroy your stomach.
Mhm.
And I just thought it just came along with it. Like, all I cared about was trying to lose the weight. Whereas now I feel like, I'm prioritizing my health, and I'm doing this for my health. And I know that a healthy weight will come along with that eventually. But it wasn't my total focus from day one, which I've never done before. It's
Mhm.
always a weight loss stance.
And now it's overall like setting an example and feeling good for your kids and having energy. And I know that you work out regularly, and I'm assuming your workouts feel good and they feel strong, and your joints probably feel better.
I haven't been good about working out. I go through spurts.
Okay.
Yeah, I wish I was. We have a whole freaking gym in the garage, and it's like, what a commute to walk out there. So when I do, I lift weights and I love it. I've been slacking, but
Well,
it
if
does
you,
feel good.
yeah, well, if you need any help with that, I know somebody. So how
Yes.
long have you been on this journey so far?
Actually, I think maybe tomorrow will be my 8 months. So
Okay.
around that. Yeah.
So you've really exploded as far as like your Instagram and your social media coverage pretty fast, and becoming a female influencer in this space.
Yeah, I feel like TikTok was pretty quick. I was already had a good chunk of a following because I was already sharing my recipes and stuff before carnivore.
Mhm.
So it was a lot of like low carb keto. And then I did share my transition to intuitive eating,
Mhm.
which flopped. And then now I'm
Mhm.
sharing this. So it's been a wild ride for if anyone has been a consistent follower, who knows?
As
Yeah. And
a
then
as
go
someone
ahead.
who's obsessed with like a foodie, a chef, I mean, I'm a chef and a cook myself. How do you handle walking away from some of the things that you love? Do you ever like look at a recipe and go, man, I would love to come up with something from with that?
I mean, at first it was kind of weird to not be using, because I don't use any spices, not be throwing an onion and garlic and things, not to be roasting veggies and stuff. So it was definitely weird, but I'm loving how simple it is. Like it saves so much time. And now I'm just figuring out like different ways to use like my creativity in the kitchen,
Mhm.
I guess, with like carnivore stuff. But yeah, it is really weird, but I just love it. It's just so simple and easy and it's just quick. You're just like, which animal do we want to have today? Or maybe we have a bunch. And like I never used a grill before going this way of eating. Like that was my husband's grill. And now the poor guy maybe, gets to grill once a month or
Oh,
so because
funny.
I'm like, no, let me do it. I've mastered it. I know exactly how I want my meat cooked. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, I'm just like finding different ways in the kitchen than using a bunch of ingredients.
What kind of cuts of meat do you guys typically eat the most of? For people listening, they're like,
Um,
oh, what are some different options versus eating a steak every single day?
yeah, you know what? We are pretty simple. I do make, some recipes for people that are like wanting a little bit more because how boring would that be if all I was sharing was my burger patties?
Yeah.
But I'm pretty like stoked on burger patties. So we have a lot of burger patties. I like to squish them in between two plates and get them really thin, pop them on the grill because I like crust. Like I don't want thick burgers where it's full of just meat. Like I want crispy, crunchy, salty. So I do a lot of that. Um, Throw in some ribeyes here and there. Skirt steaks, I think, are great. We do short ribs every so often, like in the instant pot. And then once in a while we'll have like a piece of salmon or something or chicken wings. Like I'm doing the BBBE right now, so it's beef, bacon, butter, and eggs for 30 days. And I cannot wait to go to Buffalo Wild Wings and get chicken wings again. Like I'm craving them. And they fry them in tallow. So
Oh,
that's
wow.
awesome too.
Yeah. Yeah, we eat chicken wings from time. We actually just had some the other night because I was craving. And then the next night we had ribs because like for some reason I'm just craving it.
Yeah, they're so good. So I can't wait to have that again.
So because you do have a pretty decent following, I'm gonna get like, luckily for me, again, I put out like this is what I'm feeling. I'm not expecting like you to do it. This is why I'm doing it. So I haven't received like any hate. But I know that is not the case for you, that you have quite a lot of people that are coming and being like, why are you doing this? This is stupid. When people come at you and go, aren't you worried about cholesterol? What kind of advice can you give back to that?
Honestly, I would be curious though to see what their cholesterol is because I think people that, eat a standard American diet or eat low meat, think that they have phenomenal cholesterol and they probably don't. I don't know if you follow Dr. Ovadia. He's a heart surgeon that, pushes a carnivore diet. And he said the majority of the people on his operating table have normal to low cholesterol. So that being said, we need cholesterol to survive. Like we need it. Our brain is made up of, I want to say like 70% cholesterol or something like that. So it's very important. Um, I think what people look at is like the total cholesterol and they're like, oh my gosh, like I've shared my labs and I got ripped to shreds on TikTok because they're like, your cholesterol skyrocketed, it's through the roof. It's like, but you don't understand what this means. Let me explain it to you. Oh, no, the person that's explaining it's a quack. That's not it. It's like, they're not willing to receive that information. But when you're looking at your cholesterol, it's so much more than the total number. You want to look at your triglycerides, you want to see the ratio, maybe know the particle size. And then that in general, the cholesterol is just like one piece of the puzzle. Like your cholesterol does not determine your overall metabolic health. Like there's so many other aspects. So yeah, there is a book, I haven't read it yet, but it's supposed to be amazing, called The Great Cholesterol Myth. And we've essentially just been lied to about cholesterol.
Yeah, because I mean, people have always been. My mother-in-law, who is a dietitian, she was a registered dietitian in the 80s. Anytime we go there, we'll fry up like eggs. That's just for years. My husband eats like a 3-egg omelet every day. And she's like, aren't you worried about your cholesterol? And we're like, oh my goodness, like you are not up to date. I mean, luckily she's not a I say luckily, but she's not a registered dietitian anymore, though she does listen to this podcast. Mom B, I love you to death. But there's no longer any evidence that supports that dietary cholesterol found in natural products of meat is correspondence to bad cholesterol in your blood cholesterol. It's more in terms of trans fatty acids and, like you talked about before, processed sugar.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the carbs and the sugar that are really doing the damage to our heart and our arteries and all that. And people don't want to hear that.
Right.
They don't want to get rid of their drug of choice.
Yeah, exactly. So moving forward, now that it has been like several months, is this a lifestyle that you feel is sustainable?
Yeah, absolutely. I will not go back to the way I ate for sure. I also, kind of like what we talked about before, I'm not going to be dogmatic about things that, I'm always going to have an open mind and question things. That's how I got here. So if, new studies that weren't paid for by, somebody, come about that maybe we're doing things wrong, then I would totally have an open mind. But yeah, I feel like, everything I've been learning across these 8 months, it's like, this is how we're designed to eat. So yeah, I won't go back